I used to think the agents making the most money were the ones with the best scripts, smoothest lines, strongest objection handlers, like the best closers. I was wrong, because the number one sales skill that changed my real estate career had nothing to do with talking more. It was learning how to ask questions that make clients sell themselves. And once I figured that out, everything changed. My listing appointments got stronger. My buyer consultations got easier. My follow-up worked better. And I stopped losing business because I was explaining too much too early. After 24 years in residential real estate and over 1,000 homes sold, here's what I know. Most agents do not lose deals because they lack information. They lose deals because they talk before the client is clear. They explain before they understand. They pitch before they diagnose what the real problem is. And then they try and solve problems the client hasn't fully admitted yet. That is where the trust drops. That is where resistance shows up. And that is where the deals quietly die. But the agents who convert at a very high level do something completely different. They know how to ask the kind of questions that make a client stop, think, and say, yeah, that actually is a problem. Yeah, that's what we really want. Yeah, we do need to make that move. That's a skill. It's an art. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it is, why it works well, and how I use it in real conversations today with buyers, sellers, and leads. Because once you understand this, you stop sounding like a salesperson and you start sounding like the obvious choice. All right, number one, the sales mistake that holds most agents back. See, most agents think selling is about having the right answers. It's not. They think if they can explain the market really well, present well, and respond confidently enough, the client will move forward. Sometimes that helps, but that's not usually what drives real estate decisions. People do not make big moves because they gave a polished speech. They make moves when they get clear that saying the same is no longer the better option. That is completely different. And that is where a lot of agents lose people without even realizing it. The seller says, we thought about moving, and the agent jumps straight into pricing, timing, market, inventory. Why now is a good time? Why you should list before the market shifts. The buyer says, we're just browsing. And the agent immediately starts qualifying, pitching, setting up searches, sending listings. Again, way too early. Here's the problem. When you start pushing solutions before the client feels understood, resistance goes up. That's when you hear, we're just thinking about it. We may wait until next year. We're not ready. We're going to hold off. And a lot of agents hear that and think, I need better objection handling. Sometimes, yes, you might. But a lot of the time, the real issue is this. You created the resistance by how you led the conversation. That was a huge lesson for me because once I saw that, I stopped trying to win the conversation and started trying to understand it. Because once I saw that, well, everything changed. I started to win the conversation and started trying to actually understand what the client needed. And by the way, I'm in the process of building a private community for residential realtors just like you who want to scale without burning out. If you're looking for more time, better systems, and a predictable business year over year, instead of this crazy feast or famine cycle that you're on, I'll drop a link below. No pressure, just something I'm building for agents like you who want to work smarter, not longer. All right, back at it. The number one sales skill that changed my real estate practice was learning to ask questions that create clarity. Not random questions, not checkbox questions, not interrogation, but questions that help clients slow down, think clearly, and say out loud what is actually driving their decision. Here's what I've learned. When I say it, they can resist it. When they say it, it becomes real. That changes everything. Weak sales feels like persuasion. Strong sales feel like you're diagnosing the situation. Weak sales is trying to push someone toward a decision. Strong sales is helping them understand what decisions actually make sense. And that is why this skill converts. Because clarity creates action, not pressure, not hype, not some magical script. Clarity. The client says it, not you. That's the shift. This is where it shows up first in seller appointments. A homeowner says, we're thinking about selling. And a lot of agents hear that as a cue to start presenting. Wrong move. Because the first job is not to impress them. The first job is to understand whether the motivation is shallow, like early days, or if it's real. That's what actually matters. So instead of jumping into pricing too fast, I want to know what changed. Why now? What's not working about your current home? What happens if you stay another year or two? What is this move really about? Those are very different conversations. And in my experience, sellers almost never move for one clean, simple reason. It's layered. The house may be fine, but it no longer fits their lifestyle. The layout may have worked 5 years ago, but now it feels off. The maintenance is starting to wear thin. The commute is getting old. The stairs are becoming an issue. The family has outgrown, or they've simply reached the point where they are emotionally done, but haven't fully admitted it. That last one's huge. I've sat at kitchen tables with homeowners in perfectly good homes, in strong neighborhoods, saying this: we're just exploring options. And in 15 minutes after that answer they give me, it's obvious. They were not casually exploring. They're frustrated. They're tired. They felt stuck. They just haven't said it plainly yet. That is the moment the appointment changes. Not when you start presenting, when they start telling you the truth. And once you do that, you are no longer dragging them toward a decision. You're helping lead them toward where they need to go. So let me make this practical for you. I had a seller conversation a few days ago where on the surface, there was no urgency at all. Nice home, decent condition, no obvious life event had happened, no visible pressure. If I had run my standard listing presentation too early, I probably would have got the classic polite stall. Thanks, this is helpful. We're probably gonna wait. But when you stay in the conversation mode longer, you uncover the real friction. So I ask these questions. What's made this come up? What's becoming harder here than it used to be? If nothing changed for the next 12 months, what would bother you most? That one is huge. I would recommend you pause, back up 15 seconds, write that one down. If nothing changed for the next 15 months, what would bother you most? Next question I ask them: what does the next home need to solve for you? And that's when the real story comes out. Maybe one spouse is already checked out of the home emotionally. Maybe the upkeep is getting annoying. Maybe the house works on paper, but not in real life. Maybe they're hosting less, enjoying it less, using half the space differently, or quietly realizing the next chapter of their life does not fit this properly anymore. That is the real sale. Not your listing package, not your marketing slide, not your speech about exposure. See, it's helping them get clear on the cost of staying in the same place. That's why I always say, stop pitching, start diagnosing, because diagnosing builds trust. And trust moves people. And I'm talking about sellers right now, but buyers, it's no different. And this is where agents lose them. A lot of agents think the skill matters most with sellers. It doesn't. It matters just as much with buyers, maybe even more. See, a buyer says, we're just browsing. We're not in a rush. We're just seeing what's out there. See, a weak agent either takes that at face value or pushes harder. A strong agent knows that just browsing often means we're interested, we're just not clear yet, or we want to move, but we're nervous, or we don't know if it's the right time, or we haven't fully defined our search criteria. That's not a lead problem. That's a clarity problem, and clarity can be solved by asking the right questions. So instead of rushing into showings, I want you to understand the gap. What is the current home no longer giving? What would make staying another year a mistake? How would the next move improve your life? What matters most? Price, location, layout, schools, timing, monthly payments, long-term fit, on and on. See, those conversations change everything because buyers are not really buying bedrooms and bathrooms. They're buying relief, confidence, convenience, more space, less stress, a better setup for life they're trying to build. That's the sale. And the best buyer consults I've had were not the ones where I flooded people with data. They're the ones where I slowed the conversation down. And by the end, the buyer understood their own priorities better than they walked in. It's like you're a psychologist. That's the value. That is the authority. And that is how you stop being like every other agent they talk to. This matters even more with leads. If you think it's important for listings and for buyers, it is, but even for leads, it's more important because this is where most agents sound robotic. A lead comes in and the agent goes straight into process or pressure mode. Are you pre-approved? Are you working with an agent? What's your timeline? Do you want me to set up a search? Can we book a call? Again, those questions have a time and place, but too early, they feel transactional, not relationship-based. And people hate feeling like they're jammed into a process, especially online leads, especially open house leads, especially people who are still deciding on their representation. What works better is getting underneath the inquiry. What caught your attention about that home? What are you hoping to change in your next move? What's the biggest frustration with your current situation? What would a successful move look like for you? Now it sounds like a real conversation. Now that lead feels understood. Now the follow-up gets stronger because you have something to work off of. And that's huge. When someone actually tells you what they want, your appointment becomes easier because you have something to work with. You're not just forcing the next step. You're simply saying, well, based upon what you told me, the next move is to sit down and look at this properly. See, that feels natural because it is. The client says it, not you. Here's why most agents sound polished, but still don't convert. It's where it all breaks down. See, a lot of agents are not bad at talking. They're actually pretty good. They sound sharp. They sound knowledgeable. They sound prepared, but they still don't convert consistently. Why? Well, it's usually one of three reasons. Number one, they explain too early. They start giving answers before the client is emotionally connected to their problem. Number two, they pitch before diagnosing the problem. They start selling the services before they actually understand what the motivation is. And number three, they answer unasked questions. They just dump information the client does not even care about, and they lose the thread of what matters most. This is why you can leave a meeting feeling like, went well, but you never hear back because the client did not feel deeply understood. And in real estate, especially in high trust decisions, that matters more than sounding impressive. That was another major shift for me in my career. I stopped trying to sound smart early on. I started to understand deeply first, out of the gate. And once you do that, your advice starts to land much better because now it feels specific. Now it feels earned. Now it feels credible with authority. So here's the framework I would give you right now if you ask me how to fix this. Number one, find the friction. What is no longer working in their current situation? Number two, find the cost of staying the same. What happens if they do nothing? Number three, find the desired outcome. What does a better result look like? That's it. If you can help a client clearly say what's wrong now, why staying stuck has a cost, and what they want instead, you are ahead of 99% of agents. Because once the gap is clear, the conversation gets easier. Now you're not closing, you're bridging. You're helping them move from current pain to desired outcome. And when you do that well, the decisions start to feel obvious. Clarity creates action. Why this changed my career when I mastered this? I stopped feeling like I needed the perfect line. I stopped feeling like every call was some performance. I stopped trying to force outcomes, and I got much better at helping people tell the truth faster. That made me better on listing appointments, better with buyers, better on follow-up, better at conversations. But more than that, it made me more trusted because when clients feel that you are not trying to push them and that you actually care about understanding what matters, their guard goes down. And that's when real conversations start. And once the real conversation starts, decisions get better. This is one of those skills that gets more valuable the longer you're in the business. Markets change, rates change, technology change, lead sources change, but human behavior does not change that much. People want to feel heard. They still want clarity. They still want confidence before making a big move. And the agent who can create that consistently will always have an edge. And the other thing about all this is I don't have to prepare a lot before appointments. Like my appointment ratio to probably most agents is like 1-3, 1-4. I do very little preparation before any meeting because I'm protecting my time. Because probably 70% of the people I meet with aren't ready yet. So I would have spent maybe 3 to 4 hours preparing a CMA and all of this further due diligence and stuff, but they're not even ready today. Legit. My first meeting ever with anyone is just conversations. I have 2 kids right now, toddler and a 9-month-old. I treat it like my 3.5-year-old. Toddler curiosity. I go into these appointments just asking open-ended questions and I understand the goods on what they're actually needing to find out. Because if I can't help them, if I don't know exactly what they want, I'm wasting their time and my time just selling them on all of these other things. So if you want the one sales skill that can make you better with buyers, better with sellers, better with follow-up, and better converting appointments, here it is. Stop trying to be more convincing. Start getting better at asking questions that create clarity because the best agents are not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who help clients think better, decide faster, and feel confident moving forward. That skill changed my career. And if you build it, it will change the way you sell too. Now, once you've got that skill, the next question becomes, how do you actually apply it in real world appointments? Because one of the best places is to use this when you're sitting down belly to belly with a seller and figuring out price, positioning, and strategies. So that's why you need to check out my next video right here, how to do a comparative market analysis the right way. Because if you can ask the right questions and know how to build a proper CMA, you become a much more dangerous listing agent in the field. Check it out right now.